Hello and welcome to the Wine Access Unfiltered podcast. I'm Amanda McCrossin and we are talking about smart buys from iconic regions. What the heck does that mean? Well, I'm joined by two fellow sommeliers from Wine Access, and I think these guys, along with me, know what it's like to serve some really expensive wines to guests at our restaurants. I'm sure we've all served our fair share of like Screaming Eagle and Harlan and maybe
First
the occasional,
Quotes.
exactly.
Yeah, you name it.
But like when we come home at night, we're not drinking those wines exactly.
As much as we wish.
As much as we wish, yeah. So instead, sommeliers, being the problem solvers that we are, we look for other ways to drink really, really well. And one of those ways is to continue looking at these iconic regions like Barolo and Bordeaux and the one we're going to talk about today, Loire Valley. And we look at adjacent places, little nooks and crannies in those regions where you can find things that are maybe just not quite as expensive as what we might be serving some of other guests. So there is only one way to figure out what those are. Well, there's two ways. One, you can do the research yourself, or two, you can listen to this podcast and let us tell you, which is exactly what we're going to do today. So to my right, I have the wonderful Laura Koffer. Welcome.
So happy to be here and drinking this fantastic wine and, you know, giving away all our secrets.
I know. I feel a lot of things about that, but I think ultimately this is a good thing. And to my left, Eduardo Dingler.
A pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Always good to have you.
Always a fun time.
Yeah, I love when you guys come on because we, all three of us, have worked in Napa Valley in separate restaurants. Laura, you were at Bottega for a minute.
Yeah, many years doing the restaurant programs for Bottega and Coquetta and working the floor and grinding away and just serving some of the most amazing wines in the world.
Yeah. And Eduardo, you've spread your wings at a few different places. I think most recently pre-Wine Access, Morimoto.
Certainly. With the Global Corporate Beverage Director position, I was based in Napa, but also got the opportunity to open restaurants across the globe and see behaviors and obviously the cult wines that everybody follows and had to bring them to each location, but also recommend fun things that we're doing now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think between the three of us, we probably sold, millions.
Oh my God! Yeah,
dollars of wine.
Certainly. Certainly.
But our cellars look a little different, so we're going to talk about that today. So before we jump into that, we're going to talk about what is going on in the wine world. We're going to start with something a little heavy, not, super, super heavy, but I'm sure you all are familiar with Wine Spectator. They were recently hit with a transgender discrimination lawsuit, unfortunately, by a former employee named April Lewis. She alleges that she was wrongfully terminated earlier this year following medical absences for 3 gender-affirming surgeries. Obviously, terrible ordeal for anyone to have to endure. And I don't know if you guys ended up reading this article that's been kind of shared a few different places, but the one that I'm referencing is the one from the San Francisco Chronicle. And what was interesting is within that same lawsuit, she alleges that Wine Spectator repeatedly violated the company's blind tasting protocol, which is their system of impartial wine criticism crucial to the magazine's credibility. And here's the quote from the Chronicle. During her tenure, Lewis claims that she lodged multiple complaints to Wine Spectator staff, including, I don't know how to say her last name, but Robic, against senior editor James Molesworth, who reviews California Cabernet Sauvignon Pinot Noir for, quote, changing wine scores after opening bags mid-flight, meaning he would allegedly change a score after seeing the wine's label.
That's big claims, and obviously, allegedly.
Always allegedly.
Never know.
Always
but that's a big reputation they have to carry, and it does makes you think.
Yeah.
I think impartial tasting in a blind setting, it's very important for these publications. Mm-hmm. When you look at other ones, some actually say, "Hey, we don't do it blind."
Yeah.
I think Venice is famous for that.
Yeah.
James Suckling and such, but it is important if you're sticking to that, to make sure you follow through.
Don't you do it?
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of bad behavior kind of outlined here, and all this is going to play out in our own backyard because this is all filed here in Napa.
That's right.
Indeed.
And I think, Laura, you were on the podcast when we talked about the first growths not submitting to Wine Spectator because of this blind tasting policy, and they held firm in that blind tasting policy that they were not going to go to Bordeaux as the First Gross had requested to review these wines. So I don't know. I mean, again, as Eduardo said, all of this allegedly, this is a lawsuit, so a lot can happen. But if this does prove to be true, it's a bad look for Spectator if it is true. So hopefully,
a giant, somebody that's well established in the community, one of the pioneers.
Yeah, no, and it's big. And you said you had brought up there's other magazines, of course, but Wine Spectator is actually one of the few left, if any, beyond that actually do blind tastings in these ways. Do you guys still do blind tastings?
Not often. We usually like to know everything about it and then assess the wine with having that armed with that knowledge. Every now and then, though, in judging panel, it'll be kind of fun. Someone will say like, "Okay, I'm just gonna pour it. I'm not gonna tell you anything," and it really does keep us on our toes. It keeps us honest, and it keeps us just really truthful to what are we tasting in the glass.
It's always really, it's a huge catalyst. So a lot of the judging that I do for competitions, whether it's domestic or international, they're all blind. One of them in particular, you do a blind setting, and then they unveil the bottle, and then you get to judge it on packaging too. So you have two parts of it, which to me is always a little strange because you could go back and change it.
Yeah.
They don't lock it.
Sounds like maybe what somebody else is doing right now.
Exactly. So it makes you think, but I do love that blind setting. It really puts it through what we're studying for the Court of Masters. We're tasting a lot of the wines. And every once in a while, we will throw one of those big California shards that everybody bashes on for its style. And it would, among sommeliers, it would throw people off. It's fascinating.
You're not the first person that's told me that's happened in a blind tasting. That's interesting.
I would do that for my staff for lineups. Sometimes we would all have this notion or this idea about a certain wine, and I'd hear from the staff about, oh, this is how it is. This is how it is. And so I would decant it and bring it to lineup and say, this is something we have on the list, and let's just talk about it. And usually, it would change a perception or what they thought it, and it would make them better for the guests. So I think there's a lot to be said about tasting things blind. And if you say you're going to taste it blind, I think you need to do that.
I just had this conversation recently when I was down in Argentina with someone that reviews wines, and we were talking about whether or not blind tasting as a journalist is important, because ultimately that they're not tasting wines for potential inclusion on a website or on the retail floor, right? Where impartiality does sort of matter. To me, I think when you're a journalist and you're talking about the entire story of the wine and you're going to be presenting this wine to consumers who are going to be taking the whole thing into consideration, why would you not, as a journalist, do the same thing if that's the end result?
Absolutely. Ultimately, it's like Taj Mahal said. He said, "I don't care what you do, as long as you do what you say you're going to do."
Right.
Something like that.
That's
anyway, I'm a firm believer of that.
Do what
Cheers
you're
to Taj Mahal.
In less heavy news, I think we're all friendly or friends with Tony Biagi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great guy.
Super exciting news for our friend Tony Biagi, winemaker here in Napa Valley and other California regions like Sonoma and Paso. He has just been appointed the new winemaker for Tocolon Vineyard Company, taking over Andy Erickson, who has huge guy, huge news, huge project. And I have to say, I really like what they're doing with the Tocolon Vineyard Company. And I'm very excited for Tony who knows, and I'm sure you guys know this, knows probably more than anyone else in the valley about Napa Valley vineyards. Like, if you want to know, like, who was sourcing from where, like, what's up with that vineyard, who owned it when, Tony is your guy. So the fact that he is going to be making wines from this very iconic vineyard is super, super exciting.
Yeah. From one master to the next. Andy it's outstanding. And I think one thing they both do well, in my perception, is the tannin management and how to play with the Napa fruit.
Yes.
That it's not easy for everyone.
Yeah, no, you're right. They both work with Oakville fruit really well, which does tend to have that like intense muscular structure, lots of tannin, and they manage to just like contain them without masking them, which I think is really, really hard to do, and not everyone can do it. So great point. No, I'm excited. And if you want to taste any of his wines, currently he still has his own label called Patria. And He's still the winemaker at
Hourglass.
And a few others. So yeah, super exciting. I love when like big changes happen like this because you get to see a different expression of really iconic vineyards. So
Absolutely.
should be interesting. Something that was kind of fun that came across my desk was, are you all familiar with Essentia water? It's actually one of my favorite waters. Have you seen this?
I haven't seen this one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Essentia water, you can buy it in Whole Foods. It's probably too expensive, but I buy it anyway. They partnered with House Wine to release a water and rosé combo box. So picture, like college dreams come to life, right? So picture like a big cardboard box, and one half is Essentia water, the other half is rosé, and
the whole thing goes in your fridge?
Or wherever, yeah.
So they're not
Picnic.
mixing it, but it's actually a bottle of each.
It's like
Like
so
the
it's
2 compartment.
exactly.
Got
So
it.
one
Yes.
half of the so they're separated. So one half of the box is rosé, one half is water. It's 8 standard 750 milliliter bottles of rosé, and then 32 8-ounce glasses of water. So you'll be sure to stay hydrated or have no
No
excuses
joke.
as to not
Or have a very
Hydrated.
odd wake up in the middle of the night to try to get a glass of water.
what is
moment.
happening?
And drink rosé. Yeah.
Yeah.
Suck down some rosé.
Yeah.
Brilliant marketing.
Brilliant marketing, and I initially was like, I don't know about all this, but I think like the more we can get people drinking wine, and the more we can co-brand with like non-wine companies, I think the better off we're gonna be. So I would try it. I would, I actually just did a TikTok video or an Instagram video on what's called a double bagnum. Have you heard of this?
No, I missed this. How did I miss
Different
this?
wines
No,
bagged up.
no, it's
Tell
like
us.
picture like a giant like Capri Sun pouch.
Yeah.
So it's a double magnum, double magnum of, of rosé. So it's 4 bottles in there, and it just like lives in your fridge. There's a little spout on it. And so I
Wow.
love these like alternative packaging formats.
Hey, speaking about your recent postings, I love the one about orange wine versus rosé.
Yes.
Fascinating. Shared it. I
Thank
think
you very
there's a
much.
lot to be said in there. Speaking of rosé. So
Yes, they are not the same. Yeah, everyone keeps asking me. I kept getting these DMs about orange wine, and I like orange wine. But there have been a lot of articles. In fact, if you just Google like orange wine, a lot of them are like, is orange wine
Not
the new
like the
rosé?
other.
And no, the answer is no, it is not the new
Very
rosé.
different. Yeah, they're different. But it'll be exciting when they do the fridge pack of orange wine and water.
or orange wine and
Yes.
rosé. That's probably next level.
It's like my kind of mimosa, right?
Kick the water right out of there.
Yeah. And then actually, last but not least, was sort of for you, because this was very recent news. Last night, the James Beard Awards took place. The Outstanding Wine and Other Beverages Program Award winner. Did you see this?
Ototo
Yes.
in LA. I am a huge fan. They're great friends of mine.
Cool.
We try to stop by every time. Holy cow, they deserved it.
So cool. I've never been, but I saw. So Ototo is a sake bar in LA, and I think what's interesting is this category that you can be nominated for the James Beard Awards, which is like basically the Oscars for food and wine, right? This category has really opened up to include other things beyond just wine. So I love that a sake bar won.
Fascinating. Courtney and the whole team have done a great job.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of James Beard, or good friends, received an award for The Whole Animal from some TV guys.
Yes, that's right.
For the documentary, which
That's
is
right.
one of my favorites. The whole score, the way they filmed that movie about
Yeah.
butchering and travel around the world. I'm a huge fan. Needs to be said.
And also, like, if James Beard Awards are not on your radar in general, like a great way to research new restaurants and programs and people and books.
Cookbooks
Yeah.
and TV shows, and it's just like kind of anything kind of food and wine world.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's like the Oscars for the culinary world.
Yeah. Also, shout out to my hometown of Philly, which took home 3 major awards.
Ooh, nice.
So yeah, one of my favorite restaurants. Well, 2 of my favorite restaurants.
Which ones?
3 of them. Friday, Saturday, Sunday took Outstanding Restaurant, which you have to be open for like 10 years. That's actually the second restaurant that I know of in Philadelphia to take home that award, which is not an
Wow.
easy one to do. So the first was Zahav, the Israeli restaurant from Michael Solomonov, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Ellen Yin, who has her own hospitality company. She owns a kitchen and bar. She won. Love that place. And then also one of my favorites that I've been championing forever and ever and ever is Kalaya, which is a wonderful, wonderful Thai place in Fishtown in Philly. So
Wow. To add to the list of
Yes.
the tour we're working on.
I know.
Hopefully.
We got to get you guys down
Time to get back to Philly.
That's right. So that's what's going on in the wine world. If you want to hear more about what's going on in the wine world, you should definitely like, subscribe, and review this podcast, because that is how our bosses let us keep doing this.
Thumbs
Seriously.
Yeah.
It really helps us. So if you have not done so already, please go ahead and do that. And then also, since you're probably, if you're watching this right now or just listening to us chug our wines in this show, this is your cue to sign up for our accompanying wine club. We have a wine club. It's called the Wine Access Unfiltered Podcast Wine Club. It's a really original name. Crushing it in that department, but it is original wine. So we always select 4 wonderful wines with the help of these guys. It is a labor of love.
Community effort.
Someone's got to do it. I mean,
We do taste and talk about a lot of wines, and we narrow it down.
it really, like the cream really rises to the top for these selections.
Yeah.
And I was excited when we tasted this wine the first time around. I'm excited to have it in my glass again. I'm excited to throw a few more bottles into my shopping cart.
It's sold out, Laura.
Oh, no.
But I only know that because I wanted to do the same.
It went fast.
It went really fast, yeah. So there was only, we obviously allocated a portion for this wine club and then a portion to go out to non-wine club, and it's gone. Maybe it'll come back someday.
If you're already in the club, you're one of the very few lucky ones.
I think Eduardo and I know some people. We can.
Yes, we
can
can work our way. Absolutely.
So we're going to be jumping into that wine and talking about all of those smart buys from iconic regions when we come back. All right, we are back with wine in our glass. Hopefully you've got some too. And we are drinking the 2021 J de Villebois Pouilly-Fume from the Loire Valley. If you did not catch our Loire Valley episode with John and Reed Scuppney, this would be a good moment to jot that down and revert back to it because we're not going to dive too heavy into Loire Valley itself on this episode, but we do in the other episode. Instead, we're going to be talking about all of these regions and their little pockets within those regions that we kind of forget about, right? There's like all these little places and little wines that like sort of live under the radar. So this wine in particular, I have to say, if you haven't caught the tasting video that I did of this wine, I think Ronnie, who does all the social, was like super excited about my tasting video because I went nuts for this wine when I was tasting it. I love this, and to me, this is Sauvignon Blanc coming from the region of Pouilly-Fume, and when you smell it, it's flinty and it's minerally, but it's like it also like feels very sun-kissed. So it's not just one thing. Like it's many different things, and to me, I could have waxed poetic about this wine forever and ever and always. So this is all fermented and aged in stainless steel tanks. So all of that great texture that you should be getting on the palate is coming from the grape. It's coming from that really nice richness. All that flintiness is coming from
Kimmeridge soils.
Exactly.
Oh, mama.
Exactly. So the more famous region that produces Sauvignon Blanc in the Loire Valley is, of course, Sancerre, right? We love Sancerre. We're here for Sancerre.
Love
It's
Sancerre.
a machine marketing-wise. Sancerre really opened the way, I feel
Totally.
like, to a lot of Sauvignon Blanc drinkers that a lot of people don't even know Sancerre Sauvignon Blanc.
They fell in love with the region, which is so easy to fall in love with. And you see Sancerre really just cropping up. It was like became a by the glass wine, and now it's almost too expensive to be by the glass. 'Cause
Yes.
It's getting more and more expensive, and it's getting more and more sought after. And particularly
very short vintages
in this
as well.
vintage that we're drinking right now, I'm not surprised this is sold out because this was such a small vintage. There were so many issues, and Sancerre has become just harder and harder to get your hands on. But Pouilly-Fume is literally across the river, just a hop, skip, and a jump. Same beautiful, soils and same beautiful grape, and it's just not quite as well known. So this is where
where Soms live.
There's a
Where a lot
theme
of the
comes to
Somme-
play there.
where a lot of the Somme dollars go to be consumed because the wines are just as delicious, and you can have 2 bottles for the price of one.
I've always found it interesting too, like even the higher end producers of the Pouilly-Fume, like even the Dagenauts, like you can still find for like
Yes.
not crazy amounts of money. Like I don't really always want to spend $100 in Sauvignon Blanc, but if I do, this would be the place I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and like Dagenauts is probably the most well-known producer from the region. Makes his home there, and also does make Sancerre, but the Pouilly-Fume is really where it's at. For that. But yeah, this wine really does deliver all the things you want out of a great Loire Valley Sauvignon Blanc. It's expressive. I think Eduardo had mentioned when we first opened it was a little bit tropical, which is definitely right there. But that flinty, that smoky, that soil is just bursting out.
To me, it's like lightning. It's like all this electric charge in the palate.
Are you gonna say it's like licking a battery? Because
oh my God,
I will forever remember that being the thing that you say, and I was like, all right.
Every once in a while, some things have like licking a battery. I don't know how often you do that. You shouldn't. However, this is electric. To me, the Kimmeridgian soils, the right situation here that's happening in the Loire Valley, it gives a lot of jolt of energy to this wine,
Absolutely.
which keeps it mouth-watering. You want another sip and another sip, which as we're doing. So quite fun.
Yeah, the farming practices, the organic, I think that comes through in the glass, and you get this liveliness in that you call it electricity, I guess. But yeah, that kind of permeates through the glass. I would have this with, shellfish, with fry. I mean, it's summer now, like a lobster roll kind of thing, salads, all those great summertime meals.
I'm here for the goat cheese.
Yeah,
Ooh, there you go.
Classic.
I know.
Yep.
Not super original, but it is a classic.
It's a reason. There's a reason everyone has a little black dress.
Yeah. Well, and I should say, I don't think Sauvignon Blanc is the grape that I gravitate towards the most in life. But to me, this is the perfect example of when this grape is done really well, it just has this ethereal quality that feels, for lack of a better term, and I comparison is the thief of joy, but feels very Burgundian to me. Right? It just has
similar soils.
Right.
And yeah. So
exactly.
you're looking at parallels and soils and things.
Yeah. So even if Sauvignon Blanc isn't normally your thing, if you find Sauvignon Blanc to be too citrusy or too grassy or too green or whatever, this is definitely a wine that Pouilly-Fume in general is a region you should be seeking out, because I think in general, Sauvignon Blanc from these parts really leans into this more minerally, I think you mentioned tropical earlier. It does different things here, and I think it's a beautiful expression of this grape. Beyond Pouilly-Fume, my question for you guys, when you were working your long shifts at the restaurant,
We miss.
what, besides cocktails and beer, what did you go home and drink wine-wise?
I have to say, during my restaurant years, Sauvignon Blanc, Italian whites, those crisp, lighter style wines were always my go-to after a long shift. They were just easy to, probably too easy to drink.
Yeah.
So those were my, or lighter style reds like Burgundy, Pinot Noir, sometimes Gamay, but definitely I gravitated towards white, light, unoaked wines or bubbles.
I think you hit her in the head in there. For a period, while we had this schedule that just worked magic, right? Speaking about long shifts, I would get out of work around 11 p.m. on a Saturday, in which I was in the closer, because we were closing late, but I was in the closer. Laura was the closer at Bottega when she was running the floor and selling wine on the floor and such. So I would, every other Saturday, when we were lucky, I would get a piece of salmon, sushi grade salmon, direct from our head sushi chef. I hope. Anyway,
Hope you're not listening.
no, he would hand it to me. I would pay for it, and sometimes he'd say, "Don't worry about it." Anyway, freshly butchered this beautiful salmon. Right, I would get its skin on. I would get home. I would dice some mangoes, some chilies. I would put the skin on, crisp it, just cook it at a medium rare. And I would have it ready. Sometimes we just do tacos or just put a salad on top.
Yeah.
And by the time Laura got home, there'd be a chilled bottle of either Friulian White, which often was a Sauvignon or a Rivola Gialla or something like that, or Chablis. Sometimes, every once in a while, it was champagne. But some small producer and stuff. And that was a reward after a long Saturday. I'll never forget those things. Just a perfect salmon, perfect crisp white or champagne, and bam.
Friuli is such a great example of when we
Under
think
the
of
radar.
Yeah.
Don't tell everyone. It's so good. If you love white wine, Friuli is a place worth exploring. Actually, a lot of the winemakers of Napa Valley that were interested in Chardonnay went to Friuli. As much as they took inspiration from Burgundy, they took inspiration from Friuli to figure out how to make rich white wines that were still fresh and exciting on the palate. And there's a white wine mecca and affordable.
Yeah.
If you're still in Italy, you can do Campania too. And then you get the saltiness, the volcanic, completely different. We can talk all day about Italy for sure.
Well, let's talk about Italy, because I think, when we think of Italy, we think of the main regions, right? We think of Piedmont, we think of Tuscany. So what about within Piedmont? If you're, I don't think any of us are going to go home and drink Conterno Barolo.
It's
but
not often. It's a celebratory thing. But
Right.
Pella Verga or drinking something like Gattinara, things like that,
a
where
great example.
they are just across the river and they have that kind of intensity and richness. Nebbiolo expressions are cousins. Even Lombardy has some great, Valtellina.
So Nebbiolo really spans that area of like the northwestern Italy. So you can find things outside of, and I that would be my advice to anyone looking to enjoy, if you love a certain wine but cannot afford it every night, is to just zoom out a little bit. And so like Nebbiolo, yes, Barolo and Barbaresco are the top of the top, and price-wise, they're the top of the top. But if you zoom yourself out and look at the Langhe region, or even zoom out a little bit further and you look at, go a little bit further east into Lombardia, like there's still great Nebbiolo, and you're still getting all of those influences of climate and soil and know-how.
Yeah.
I think the ticket is not sacrificing quality. And I think that's where it is. Because obviously, if you wanted a Grand Cru Barolo, right? And you don't want to go that route, you're not going to do a Langhe Nebbiolo, because then the quality is different.
Right.
But if you're looking at a cross from other places, like as I mentioned, Gattinara or Pella Verga, places like that are using the same regimen of aging and such in bottle and giving you the same thing for a fraction of the price, because we're taking advantage. They're not that famous. They're marketing, whatever it is. Bam. Correct me, Laura.
No,
Sorry, I thought you were looking at me like.
I think
Laura has thoughts.
I think you can find great Langhe Nebbiolo made by some of these great producers. If you like a producer, then you find their other bottlings, and they can deliver a great Tuesday night bottle of wine. I mean,
Absolutely. But I think the point is aging the Barolo for a Reserva Barolo needs all this time in extra aging, right? So a Langhe Nebbiolo is never going to have
they're
that.
not going to be the same, but they'll still
everyday
deliver
drinking.
the beauty of the grape in a different package, I think.
Well, I think, we're also talking about not two different things, but we're talking about like use cases, right? We're talking about Gattinara, which could be subbed in for a Barolo. But then we're also talking about Langhe Nebbiolo, which is an easier drinking style.
Right.
Intended, so you don't need to decant it. It can be drunk on a Tuesday night. It doesn't need a lot of love, a lot of finesse. But if you want to like fool someone, like if you have like your boss over for dinner, and your boss is like, I only drink Conterno. And you're like, well, cool, I can't afford that because you don't pay me enough. That's when you break out something like the Gattinara, right? And so you can have these like two different examples of smart buys from iconic regions that do different things. And I think we can...
I'm so glad you're here to translate for us. Because yes, you are 1,000,000% correct. That is, we were talking about two ways of doing the same, getting kind of the same end.
Well, because I think when we think about all of the ways in which we enjoy wine, right? It's not just Tuesday night. Sometimes it is a Saturday night with sushi grade salmon from Morimoto. Maybe I'll be so lucky. Although I can't really complain. When I worked at Press, we got steak.
Absolutely. Yes, you did.
But there's all of these different ways that you can enjoy it. And like a smart buy from an iconic region is not indicative of quality or how you can enjoy it. Like they serve all different purposes. Tuscany.
Ooh, don't get us started.
What are we doing in Tuscany?
When I think about Tuscany and you think about the iconic wines, the super Tuscans, all of those. So this is where I would say, okay, if you love Tianello, I would look for other Antinori wines from Tuscany
Because they make a lot.
And it's like, I love Thomas Keller's food, but I can't have the French Laundry every night. Some nights it's just good. Bouchon fills the need.
Bouchon crushes.
Bakery fills the need. So I would find, like, if you love a certain super Tuscan wine, I can't think of one of them that just makes that one wine. I would find other wines from that producer and explore that to find like your best high quality from that region.
Yeah. Like second, third, fourth labels that they make. Like Sarah, what is the Sarah Nova?
Terranova, yeah.
Ornellaia has that.
And I'm going to let you in on one of my secrets. From my last trip last fall when I was working Harvest in Bulgari. So I went and hung out with a lot of friends, and there's a lot of investment and a lot of attention growing. So right now it's still pretty fresh, but into Morellino Descansano area, which is a little south from Maremma. So you have in Maremma, you have Bulgari, you have all the super Tuscans, as you were saying, cab-driven, Merlot, Cab Franc, all these things. But that area in Morellino is definitely, it's gifted with a very similar area, closer to proximity to the ocean as well, to the water. So it's given those wines a very similar character, a lot of power and finesse and structure with Bordeaux varietals, and even a little bit of Syrah as well. So it's a huge, huge place. And most of the producers right now, or the wines, the average is like $25, $30 compared to like the big brothers from over there. It's a huge, huge thing.
And what's the region called?
Morellino Descansano.
Morellino Descansano.
It's an old Etruscan town. I mean, beautiful, charming, but a lot of attention and investment into the right farming techniques, winemaking and such. Really beautiful.
And the other thing I would look for in Tuscany is the Rosso di Montalcino.
Yeah.
Because that is it. You know, I hesitate to call it Baby Brunello, because it's like it's just a different expression of the place. It is all 100% Sangiovese. It's just not aged quite as long. But some of these wines deliver such an incredible experience for a fraction of the price of Brunello. And it's just another. I mean, these are the wines that the locals drink while they're waiting for their Brunello to age. And some of them are aged, 3 years, which just isn't enough to be called Brunello, but like that's a serious
considerable
wine.
investment, indeed.
Yeah, and some of those roses can get up there too. I mean, especially when you're talking about like the Biagi Santi or like Gamazzo, but there are some like very reasonably priced ones that again like are over delivering for what they are
and give you a real sense of that place and that style of wine without having to pay the super premium price. So. Yeah.
There's Los Corno from San Filippo, or even Romitorio does. There's Rosso that just over delivers, and it goes through the similar care as the Brunello does. Obviously, the aging is a huge factor, but barrel wise and technique, and the region. I mean, you're paying for the area of the world where it's growing with the same ideal conditions that Brunello did, just with the extra aging. So just a great outlet.
Yeah, good point. Two regions that we definitely have to hit when we're talking about iconic regions that are not exactly known for being affordable, one of which, Burgundy, the other, Bordeaux. For me, in Burgundy, there's actually quite a bunch of them. And in fact, one of my first loves when I became a somm, probably for you guys too, one of the first things that I discovered was Cru Beaujolais. Which, like all Gamay, and in the last 20 years has definitely gotten more expensive. But damn, is the quality good? And like that is my go-to for fall drinking. Anytime I find myself in a situation where I'm with people that drink really great wine, and maybe I want to treat that night for some reason, I generally gravitate towards the Cru Beaujolais section on the list because.
That's one of the ultimate secrets. It's like peeking under the curtain. And usually us, as somms too, we try not to reveal that one. Sorry, you had to do it. But anyway, we're letting everybody into it. But yeah, Cru Beaujolais has this depth and structure and charisma. And each one of the several crus offers a little something different. Like Morgon has a little more depth and rich masculinity structure. Super fun. And the prices rarely ever reach the Burgundy price.
The price to quality is unbelievable for Beaujolais. And the cru stuff, these single vineyards that are really starting to get this attention are well worth it. Funny story is that for a wine access get together that we did at a local bar down here at Cadet, we went out as wine access team and we bought some wines, and of course we drank Cru Beaujolais because we were a bunch of wine people getting together. And the next morning, I saw the owner of the wine bar actually at the gym, and I was like, "Oh, we had a great time last night." And she said, "Oh, I couldn't figure out who was there, but I saw the P mix, which is the product mix from the night before." And she's like, and now it all makes sense. Because no one put in the report like who was there, but she's like, oh, yeah.
She's like, where'd all my LaPierre go?
That totally makes sense. Okay, perfect. All right. It wasn't someone punching in the wrong thing.
Yeah. That's so funny. I love Cadet too. I think the other one sort of adjacent to that is, which you guys I'm sure have had a number of times, is Passe du Grand. Another one that I think even more under the radar. This sort of like mix of Pinot Noir and Gamay.
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of the producers make. It just they're even harder to find than
They are a little bit difficult to find. And when you do, they're special, not because of the price, because the price is totally reasonable. They're special because you've tracked one down.
Yeah.
They're a little bit tougher to find. But like as you get into Burgundy, kind of looking on the periphery, like if you look at, the places around Chablis, if you look at the places a little further south of the Côte d'Or, like there's some beautiful wines being made and some names that if you know Burgundy, you'll start to recognize.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a limb here, but I was just in the Jura. And that's an area that always piqued my interest. And having been there and seeing what they're doing, and they've been doing for decades, almost a century, if not more in some cases, wow. Their Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, but then you start getting into like the Sauvignon, and then obviously there's their style of like the age, almost cherry-like.
How do you tell someone you're a Somm without telling them you're a Somm?
Exactly. Unfortunately. So yes, that area is not that far. I want to say it was 2 hours because we spent a little time in Beaune as well.
Right.
But the wines were pristine, done right, and the Jurassic era soils, hence the name Jura, really give a lot to talk about, a lot of depth and beautifulness.
Absolutely. Great place for value.
And they don't break the piggyback.
No, those are, and the ones that are coming into the U.S. are all really high quality. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What about Sauvignon Saint-Brie?
Ooh,
that's
yes.
a fun one. And one that Wine
Speaking of-
Access members have caught on to, I think.
Ooh.
Yes, we've done very well. We can't get more and more every time. We sell out almost instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and to me, it really piques my interest because I love going back to Sauvignon Blanc. It's a chameleon. It just, everywhere it travels, it grabs where it's from and takes in the culture, if you will, and really showcases. And imagine now having Sauvignon Blanc in this prime region of Burgundy, really sucking out the soils and expressing
Well,
it.
kind of like we're having right now, right?
Exactly.
Not very far
Yeah.
away. And one of those real secret wines.
Secret wines, yeah. So I think if you know Burgundy, there's really two primary grapes, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. There's also Aligoté and Gamay, but whatever.
Indeed.
But there's a tiny little appellation of Sauvignon Saint-Brie that just Sauvignon Blanc. And if you find it, they're extraordinary and they're not very expensive.
No.
In fact, I used to have it on my list at a place in New York, and it was a gem and a wine that I used to love drinking just as much as like, Pouilly-Fume, which is another great sort of like value find. In fact, I had a friend the other night, she was at dinner and she sent me the list and she was like, what should I drink? And I know she loves Burgundy, but she was not going to be paying the check. And I said, grab the Pouilly-Fume. And she was like, so I sent her the pronunciation of how you say it, which is helpful.
That's a good friend right there.
Because I think that is always one of the biggest challenges. A lot of these regions have not gotten famous because they're not easy.
They're not easy to say. That makes it that's always like a barrier for entry. And I think spending a little, like there's some great apps that have wine maps on them, and just getting, that 15 minutes you'll spend if you love Sancerre, just look at the surrounding regions and like kind of get a little familiar with them. And then if you see those on a list or a trusted wine shop, like okay, it starts to click, and that little bit of time, a little bit of investment can save you probably hundreds and hundreds of dollars in your wine drinking life and so much enjoyment.
Well, if I may interrupt, I know we still have to talk about Bordeaux and a couple others, but you talk about those areas that is hard to pronounce, right? And what's one of the biggest barriers is Germany and Austria, right?
True.
The labels and all that.
True.
But also at the same time, some's favorite wines have become Gruner Veltliner and Riesling from both Austria and Germany, and are great options once you break down the barrier of how do you
read
distinguish
this?
what sweet, what level, and all this. But super fun wines.
Bordeaux, we all know it to be first growth, very expensive wine. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that there's actually quite a lot of value outside of those first, second, third growths, because this classification system has basically made it impossible for other producers to get famous. So you have the wines like the Chateau de Vitré, which we drank on that episode. So where I'm looking is the right bank a lot of the time. I'm also looking at, if we're talking about Sauternes, we're looking at maybe Barsac instead of Sauternes. But where are you guys looking?
Well, the satellites offer like all those areas around, just little pockets. You find incredible value. You're talking under $25 wines sometimes that are really well made. It's a balance, a constant balance between Merlot and Cabernet, in some cases a little Cab Franc and Malbec even. and they often over deliver.
Yeah, I love Bordeaux. I don't drink it enough. And like you said, the satellite regions within Bordeaux are important to look at. So and you guys offer a lot of them on Wine Access. You do a lot of direct imports from Bordeaux for that reason, because there is so much great value that just over delivers. So don't just limit yourself to the first, second, third gross. There are also the second labels that you could also be looking at.
Yes.
Plenty of those, and third labels as well.
Yeah, none of those. None of those listed chateaux only make that wine.
Right.
So it's worth sometimes doing a little digging and seeing what else they produce and from where else, and checking those out.
So much great information, I think. I think we over-delivered on this episode.
Oh my God, we could keep going.
Maybe not as much as some of the wines that you guys are about to drink, but a lot of great buys from these iconic regions that I know we're personally fans of. Hopefully you guys will check them out as well. Just to recap, we were drinking this delicious Pouilly-Fume from Jay de Villebois, which was just, if you're not getting lost in this right now. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Why not?
This is it. This is the end of it, right?
This is the end. We're reaching the end.
Well, the end of this wine too. All right, there we can't get it. You can't even get any more.
We did well. I'm really proud of us.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me and talking about spilling all your secrets, because there are many. We've got more though. So
More to come.
More to come.
Yeah.
If you enjoy this episode, as a reminder, please go ahead and like and subscribe and review this episode and this podcast. And join the Wine Access Unfiltered Wine Club if you are not already. We're having so much fun. In fact, I've loved getting some of your messages about the wines that you've enjoyed. We have gotten some great ones about the that Zuccardi Poligonos. Changed a lot of people's minds on Malbec, myself included. So we're having a lot of fun with that. So go ahead and join that. The link is in the description below. Guys, I hope to see you all soon. And in the meantime, Laura and Eduardo, thank you for being here.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having
Thank you
us.
so much.
Cheers.
Thanks everybody for sinking
Cheers.
in, and keep the comments coming.
Yum, yum, yum.
Chin.